Welcome. My name is Dr. Maria Kempinska, and I am very delighted to interview my friend, Dr. Grace Hula, but also who is a GP. She practices functional medicine, weight loss, and aesthetics. So you're really every girl's dream to have
True,
a friend. And
true.
you're based not only in Harley Street in London, you're based in Sheffield. And you're also involved in a project, a very important project in Africa, Uganda, which we'll come to. But your training was in the Karolinska Institute and in the Swedish university. Is that correct? And were you trained over here as well?
Yes, that's correct. So I was born and bred in Uganda in East
Ah,
Africa. I did my first degree, the medical degree in Uganda at Makerere University, and then moved to Sweden. And I did a doctorate, a PhD in neuroscience at the University of Stockholm in Sweden. And it had linkages with the Huddinge Hospital and Karolinska Hospital. And after that, I got a research associate job at the University of Bristol, moved to the UK, and then moved to Sheffield, where I am now based.
how amazing. So what was your PhD, your thesis in?
My thesis was in neuroscience. So we're looking at neurotransmitters, the acetylcholine receptor, and how it works.
Ah,
And yeah, and
it's,
it was mainly done in hearing research. And we looked at how hearing cells work at a molecular level
ah,
and how we can modify them to make them work better.
amazing. Do you know what because when I did my PhD, mine was in psychoanalysis. And do you know what I love about the process? I mean, it's very tough. You know, they don't make it easy for you, and nor should it be. But what I love about it, you have to go into the detail, don't you?
Yes,
It's microscopic.
yes. PhD is extremely microscopic and everything is done at a cellular and molecular level.
Yeah.
So you have to have a huge imagination and understanding of how cells work and how the body works.
And also how the brain works and how the brain and body are connected, and how the brain, mind, body are connected. And that's why I love the work you do.
Thank you.
So, what inspired you to move from that to the world of functional medicine? And first of all, why don't you give an overview of what is functional medicine?
So I've been practicing as a GP for more than 15 years now. That's a general practitioner or family physician in other countries. And then from that, I started doing aesthetics because I wanted a balance, something not too intense and then something intense. So after practicing aesthetics and general practice for more than 10 years, I realized that there was a missing link somewhere because with conventional medicine, it has its good parts, and I'm still in general practice, but there was a missing link. In functional medicine, you look for the root causes of diseases, whilst as a general practitioner, we're mainly treating symptoms. A patient comes, you give them the same type of medications and for similar illnesses, and you don't look for what is causing this problem.
Mm.
So my interest and passion in functional medicine arose from my need to understand why are these diseases happening? What is causing them? How can we come to the root cause? How do we solve this problem at the bottom of the tree rather than at the top of the tree? So functional medicine is a branch of medicine where you look for the root causes of problems by doing cutting edge scientific tests to actually see how the body is functioning at a cellular and molecular level. For instance, you will look at gut health and how it's working, how your digestion is working, immune system is working, and if there are any permeability problems, which means that you're probably not absorbing food properly, and therefore you end up being nutrient in a lot of nutrients, micronutrients.
Mm.
And then we also look at the deficiencies in the different micronutrients to see what are you lacking in. Are you low in vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, glutathione? So, and then we put the picture together. We also look at your hormones. How are your hormones working? How is your thyroid? How is your cortisol? How are your sex hormones working? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And then we do epigenetics. That is a finger prick test to check how your DNA is working, what diseases you're predisposed to getting. And then you put a picture together and develop a personalized plan for each individual. And also, we are not limited on like 10-minute appointments. We can assess patients unlimitedly, like as need demands. So again, that gives us time to know the patients well and to solve their problems, not just temporarily, but in a sustainable way, and give them long life, better health and vitality.
So if I were to come to you and do this, so do you do these tests in stages? Would I come, if I just said, "Look, I haven't got a clue what's wrong with me, I know there's something wrong," do you then say, right, this is where I'll start from, we'll do this first and get the results there? Or do you do them all at one go?
It depends. It depends on, we take a thorough history, medical history, to see where the problem is likely to be. And then from there, we recommend the tests to be done. So if budget is not limiting, we would advise that you do all the main 4 tests. That's the gut health, the organic acid test, the DNA test, and the hormone test, because then we are able to put a more comprehensive picture together and solve the problem at once. And the tests are sent to you, the kits are sent to your home, so you do the tests from the comfort of your home.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing. It's mind-blowing. To me, even as a general practitioner, it is still mind-blowing that you can look at a person internally at a cellular level. We are growing older and we can see ourselves, because I do aesthetics. People come with lines, wrinkles, sagging jowls and things like that. So if you're aging externally, what do you think is happening internally? We just can't see it, but it's usually a reflection of what's happening internally as well. So with functional medicine, you're able to actually help people improve their internal systems and look at the whole body, a very holistic approach, because you're looking not only at the test results, you're looking at their stress levels, you're looking at their sleep, you're looking at their nutrition, exercise. So it's lifestyle and supplementation, and then it's long-term as well, health.
So all of this can be done. Do I have to then come into your clinic to see you, or can this be done remotely?
It can all be done remotely, virtually.
Amazing.
Yeah. So once you've got your test results, then we arrange an initial consultation, find out what's wrong, agree on a plan, and then order the test kits. Test kits arrive at your home. We arrange for DHL to pick the test kits. Most of our tests are done at Nordic laboratories in Denmark. And then once we've got their results, pages and pages of results, we analyze the results, and then we recommend what needs to be done. Lifestyle changes, supplementation, sleep, stress. So the whole body, we look at you holistically and then recommend your treatment plan.
And do you supply, so if you do, as you say, you might need more vitamins, or you have a deficiency of iron, say, which is quite common, I would have thought. Do you then supply the correct vitamins, or do you have a supplier for that you recommend?
So we recommend, we have companies that have assembled high quality supplements, and we recommend by prescribing those missing supplements and then sending clients a link to buy the supplements. So it's like a prescribed group of supplements as per the patient's results and what they're lacking. So then they buy the supplements from these special supplement shops which manufacture top quality supplements.
And is that the same for hormones? Because
yes,
hormone replacement. So,
yes.
This is it's such a vast subject. And I love the fact, because you must be one of the only people that does this. Or have you put this together yourself? Is it unique?
Well, this is very popular in America, in the
Uh-huh.
US. So I actually work with an American group.
Ah.
They're called Functional Medicine Fast Track.
Mm-hmm.
And we discuss cases together on a weekly basis. And functional medicine has been going on for more than 20 years, but
Mm.
it's now that it's becoming more and more known.
Mm.
There are people in the UK who practice as well, but it's still not many. There are not many practitioners doing functional medicine in the UK.
So if I can just look at hormone treatment for women,
Yeah.
I know men, we did a, didn't we? We talked about this andropause. So men have this similar problem. They have a problem, but very dissimilar to women. I have this feeling that men have avoided, not avoided on purpose, but haven't quite known how to deal with women because women's hormones are complicated. And, you know, men are more streamlined. Women are very individual because you can have women who go into menopause at a very young age, you know, in their 30s, sometimes even earlier. Can you do something for women in particular? And can you do something for women who have endometriosis or for girls who have problems with their periods and so on?
Yeah, it's a very big opportunity there.
Mm.
The Dutch test, which is the urine and saliva, dried urine saliva test, actually maps up and shows not just the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone levels, but it also shows from source up what
Mm.
makes these hormones in the adrenal glands, which molecules are involved, and then downstream, their breakdown products, what they break down into, what enzymes are involved, how they're cleared from the body. So by knowing that information, you're able to look at the three different types of estrogens, their levels, progesterone, progesterone levels. You're able to look at testosterone,
Mm.
upstream DHEA, which makes testosterone, estrogen, and even progesterone. And then downstream, you're able to then pick up where the problem is. Most times with endometriosis, it's caused by estrogen dominance. So
Ah.
you're able to see which estrogen is being more overproduced.
Mm.
With conditions like PCOS, polycystic ovaries disease, you're able to see how high the testosterone levels are because it's usually testosterone induced. And then once you know which particular hormone is being overproduced, you can prescribe supplements, natural supplements, to actually modify and reduce those levels. And that way you're able to rebalance all the three hormone levels and make them work in a much better way. And in that way, you're able to then reverse those conditions.
That is amazing. And so let's start with teenagers. You know, we both have children. And girls start their periods anytime from 9 years old. And it could be even younger now. I'm not quite sure. You know better than I do. But sometimes girls, it affects them mentally, doesn't it? And sometimes girls during those times get terrible outbursts, which I think is that quite new now because it affects their mental health.
Well, that's where the holistic approach is very important because we find that most times if there's a gut a dysbiosis, an imbalance in your gut flora or your gut microorganisms or microbiome, as they call it, that in itself can cause problems because 90% of your serotonin, the mood regulator, is actually produced by the bacteria in the gut. 80% of your dopamine is produced in the gut. 70% of your immune system lives in the gut. So the problem could be arising from the gut, and that needs rebalancing. So when they do these tests, we're able to see exactly where the problem is, correct it, and most times you're able to actually stabilize them by just rebalancing their gut.
And I think this could be so helpful to all age groups because I know so many parents that, you know, say my daughter has a problem. Even boys have problems. You know, sometimes what's your experience of the hormonal imbalance in boys?
Same problem.
Yeah.
Boys, men, you can still map up their hormone levels with the Dutch test and see where the imbalance is. It might be an enzyme is not working well, and then you correct that imbalance. It might be they're producing too much testosterone or too little testosterone or too much estrogen. Even men have estrogen, and sometimes they have really high levels of estrogen. And that's probably one of the reasons of the causes of, for instance, benign prostate hyperplasia. In men. And in boys, there could be other problems and other hormonal imbalances as well, which we can pick up through these tests. So we're not doing guesswork. We're taking guesswork out of the equation. Yeah. And we are not treating everybody in the same way because everybody's hormone levels are different.
But it's amazing to know that you can start at such a young age to help your child. And then as you go along, because women have this body change all the time.
all the time. And in fact, one of my worst results I've seen have actually been in children.
Oh, okay.
Children with ADHD, children with autism, having leaky guts and being severely deficient in all the micronutrients. Low vitamin A, low vitamin B, low vitamin C, low vitamin D, E, low glutathione are just incredible, shocking.
So a parent who or suspects their child is autistic or has got ADHD, the first thing they should do is just say to you, can you do a test?
Exactly.
And you can do that portion of the test for them.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I'm not knocking down conventional medicine, but together with functional medicine, I think we could produce much better outcomes for our patients.
Yeah, and also it's the first step, as you say.
Yeah.
Because if, as we both recognize, that sometimes, sort of whatever happens inside the body is going to affect your mind.
Exactly.
And, something, if there's a trauma, that from outside will also affect your body. And you've got to work, the two have to go hand in glove. But it's always a good way to start. What is happening inside my body to get to know what's happening?
You've got it. We need to know what's happening at a cellular level, at a molecular level, in order to be able to correct the conditions. It might not cure, but it will give much better outcomes. Yeah, stabilize them, improve their behaviors.
Yeah. And it helps you manage the situation. If you're a parent with a child, you can then monitor the food they're eating. Sort of not to make life too difficult, but obviously, children like all sorts of foods and why not? But to monitor that a little bit more, but then you're not guessing. You're being a little bit more, you have a little bit more knowledge.
Exactly.
So, is this something that you have to do regularly? Do you have to do the test yearly, or is it a one-off that stays with you for 5 years or something?
So we usually recommend that you do a retest after 6 months to just make sure that things are improving and heading the right way. But we do several assessments along the way as well in terms of how symptoms are improving. We monitor symptoms to see if they're getting better. But we also do a lot of education. We have weekly meetings to educate on different health issues, nutrition, sleep, stress management, exercise. All these are important, and all these make us. If one part of it is missing, the other part will suffer. So we try and do a holistic approach to make sure that we are treating the whole person, physically, mentally, internally, externally.
And how do those meetings take place?
I usually hold a meeting every Tuesday evening, but you can decide on a day that you like with the people who are on the program. And we discuss various health issues, and we nominate a topic each week, and we take on and tackle the topic each week. We also go through the results because I educate them on how to read the results, because these are not your normal results where you just look at it and you see this is that and that. But I teach them how to interpret the results, the test results as well. For instance, the DNA test tells you what type of nutrition is good for your body type. Some people have low carb needs, some people have high protein needs, some people have low fat, some people need to follow a Mediterranean diet. We are all made differently. Exercise, it tells you for your body type how many hours of exercise is recommended for your body type, and also your susceptibility to sustain injury, your recovery times. So this is also very useful for people in professional sports or athletes or anybody who is very health conscious and wants to live a longer, healthier life full of vitality and energy.
I love that, because very often, as you might go to a gym and that you are prescribed something that you don't actually know if it really works for you. And then you can find out people who've been running for a long time, they're still not healthy, or they don't feel healthier. And it could be the wrong exercise. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
It can give you the right exercise so that when you go to the gym or when you go to get a personal trainer or whatever exercise you're doing, you can supplement that fun exercise with other exercises that have been recommended for your type.
Exactly.
How many types are there in the DNA? For
Oh,
physical, is it exponential, or is it limited to a certain number?
you mean in terms of exercise?
In terms of exercise, yeah.
So in terms of exercise, it will recommend how many hours, what type of exercise. Is it endurance? Is it aerobic? Flexibility, your recovery type, your time, your muscle types. So again, everyone has a different combination.
Right.
So you can't just guess that this is what my exercise type is.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Yeah, so it's like a prescribed exercise by your body.
And I presume you deal with allergies as well.
Of course, yes.
And that is a big thing in today's world.
It is a big thing in today's world. It involves looking at food sensitivities. It involves looking at the gut. 70% of your immune system sits in the gut.
Oh.
If your immune system is not working well, that's usually one of the big causes of allergies. So if you can rebalance and correct the gut, heal the gut, usually that helps a lot to reduce the allergies or even eliminate the allergies.
Oh. And again, it can affect your mood. It can affect your sleeping patterns. So anything, all of that can be, just affect. Do you notice, though, that things from the outside can affect everything else inside? Have you had clients come to you that have just been through the car accident and they
yes,
want to rebalance their body?
Oh yes, trauma and stress are a big cause of illnesses internally. They cause problems with increasing levels of inflammation in the body. They cause problems by increasing your oxidative stress levels. And if that is left untouched over the years, that's what can develop into other chronic illnesses. So functional medicine is big on treating chronic illnesses and reversing or improving them to a sustainable level. And we find that if you do not sort out high stress levels, it's very difficult to heal other areas of the body.
Absolutely. And so would it be wise? We're talking about, knowledge gives you the wisdom. But if somebody's gone through an accident or had a trauma of some sort, and there's many different reasons for traumas, a loss of somebody close to you, a divorce, a financial problem, or in business, is it best to come to you first? I'm not saying first, or alongside a therapist that can quieten the mind, helps restructure, but also help with the body? Is it better to deal with it quickly, like trauma? If you can deal with the trauma in the mindset quickly, then it makes it easier. So it's not embedded, as you know, as a neuroscientist, you then create neurological pathways. Is that the same with the body? The quicker somebody comes to you, the more effective the treatment can be.
Oh, yes. The sooner you deal with trauma, the sooner you deal with stress, the sooner your recovery. I mean, it's as simple as that. complex, but as simple as that. If you have any underlying trauma, in fact, what we do when we take on patients or customers or clients is map out their timeline from birth. Did their mothers have trauma during childbirth or during pregnancy? As they were growing up, did they have any falls, any head injuries? Did they have stressful lives, any losses? So we look at the person from birth all the way up to whatever ages they are to identify these traumas so that we can help deal with the traumas.
And then, because what happens with trauma, as you know, is that if somebody has a trauma, then it often reactivates the impact of the initial trauma that they've had. And that's why they say, so, you know, veterans, people in the army, those that find it, no, I don't want to oversimplify something that's incredibly complicated, but you've got complex PTSD. And some people are reliving their trauma on the battlefield over and over again. But sometimes it also brings up an earlier trauma that when it happens at a very young age, depending on the depth of the trauma and depending on how it happened, if they're from a war-torn zone or from parents splitting up, or all sorts of things can happen to a child, then that can reactivate the initial trauma, which compounds on the present trauma as well. And I presume you've got all those details for somebody.
Yeah, we have all those details and we measure, and we usually find people with strong history of trauma have high levels of inflammation in their body. And high levels of inflammation cause high levels of problems with your immune system. And with time, if this is left untreated, can lead to autoimmune conditions and other chronic health conditions as well. So it's very important to actually deal with this level of trauma physically, mentally, and also by doing these tests to correct and reduce the levels of inflammation in the body.
And are there people who are incredibly difficult to treat?
Oh, yes. There are people who have, over the years, been to their doctors and they've not been able to find any solutions. They've done all tests, imaging, scans, blood tests, and they still haven't come to the bottom of the problem, and these people are left suffering. We usually see a lot of people like that who come to us as the last resort. And then once we do their tests, once we come to the bottom of the problem, we're able to identify where the problem is. And depending on how bad the problem is, it can take several months to even years to correct these problems. However, if they already have structural changes or structural damage, it's difficult to fully reverse that because those changes have already happened. However, once we start dealing with them, they're able to manage the problems a lot better.
And it's so interesting that people talk about epigenetics and the influence of a parent on the child. We were just talking about grandchildren before, which is wonderful. How true is that? You know, how much is born within a child and how much is, you know, sort of from the environment and so on? I mean, we talk about mitochondria, don't we?
Yeah, genetics is so powerful. We see along the line the people who've inherited quite a lot of bad genes, and so we have to support them by, once we know what genes they have inherited, for instance, methylation genes, if they have the APOE, which is the lipid or Alzheimer related gene, we're able to then modify those by supporting the genes, because it usually means either an enzyme is not working well or some bodily processes, methylation, supporting the mitochondria, not working well. Once we identify where the problem is, we are then able to support that problem by giving them the right supplementation, for instance, B12 or folate for methylation, and that usually ensures that the problem doesn't get out of hand.
And how soon can you look at a child with functional medicine?
I've seen The youngest child of Sin has been 2 years old.
Okay.
Well, everything is there, how their gut is working. And children sometimes will inherit a bad gut from breastfeeding if their parent has a bad gut.
They do
So,
inherit, do they?
yeah, well, not inherit, but mothers can pass
Pass
over,
it on. Yeah.
bad bacteria
Through
or bad
the
microbiome.
yes. And, there's always this nature nurture, and there's always this breastfeeding versus milk, sort of manufactured milk, because it normally is manufactured. What's the best?
Always, I think breast is the best because it's more natural. You can't beat natural. That's how our bodies were made. Having said that, you can still find a situation where if a mother's microbiome is not good, they will pass it on to the child, and the child will develop allergies and all sorts of conditions as well. However, I think it's always best to start with breast milk if you can.
Yeah.
If you can.
Of course.
Yeah.
One of my notes was here is how can people help their children? And I presume that a parent who does this will in fact pass on the information to their children. But I presume it's always good to have a whole family to do this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way parents can help, the way we can all help ourselves is actually start with nutrition.
Mm.
Avoid processed foods, avoid high sugary foods. Those are the usual culprits. Processed foods, high sugar foods, eat normal natural foods, whole foods, stay hydrated, drink a lot of water, stay hydrated. If you do the basics, you usually end up avoiding a lot of problems later on in life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now let's come to the older section of our society. You mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia. If somebody has got the early signs of dementia, or they know their parents had Alzheimer's or dementia, can that parent come to you to look at that in particular? And how can you help with those signs?
Yeah, so early dementia, especially Alzheimer's these days, is classed as type 3 diabetes. And as we all know, type 2 diabetes is reversible. So if someone has early signs of Alzheimer's dementia, change their lifestyles. We do all these tests, improve their internals. They're very unlikely to progress that disease. I'm cautious to use the word reverse it completely because it means that they have to maintain this level of lifestyle changes for life in order to avoid the disease. But it's quite preventable. And more studies are showing that this is the case.
So why is diabetes so prevalent nowadays?
Lifestyle. It's lifestyle. Lifestyle 200%. Sedentary lives, we're not moving enough.
No.
We have jobs that involve sitting in the office for hours. So if you don't exercise regularly, you're not detoxifying your body, you're not improving your circulation. Food, nutrition, key to our bad well-beings at the moment. If you're eating well, avoiding sugar, excessive refined sugars, avoiding processed foods, eating natural foods, preferably different colored foods, vegetables, fruits, staying hydrated, you are really helping yourself and eliminating future problems.
So let's talk about the person who is stuck to their desk, which a lot of people are. So you've just said, sort of movement and the foods and so on. Should they move at a certain, like so many times a day? I mean, you do naturally do it because you have to go to the loo or go get coffee or go and get lunch. So there's those elements. But for those who, I've known people that if they're designing, say, a website that might stick to that design and sit 6, 8, 10 hours a day. What are the rules?
If they're exercising regularly, that helps. If they're just sitting and not exercising regularly, like possibly 3-5 times a week,
yeah,
then they have to develop a system where they're either standing up to stretch, standing up to do maybe breathing exercises, even some kind of meditation to release the stress, and they're sitting around for hours doing nothing. So they have to plan some kind of movement into their daily lives. Otherwise, they will end up with some kind of chronic illness. Diabetes is one of them.
Yeah.
High blood pressure. So nutrition, lifestyle, very important. Sleep.
Do you give those sort of that sort of advice as well, rather than, say, somebody can't get to the gym for whatever reason? Do you give those tips to how you can exercise in your own home or at your desk?
Oh, yes.
Your garden?
Yes. I mean, there's so many apps that do, or even on YouTube, if you watch yoga, Pilates, all those can be very strength training, really help with resistance training and build muscle. So there's really no excuse that you cannot go to the gym. Even at your desk, you can put on a yoga or Pilates video or any other movement videos and do your exercise. Sometimes even just 20 minutes is enough to get your body moving. But you have to plan it within your day so that it becomes a routine, something you're doing regularly, not as a one-off. It has to be done consistently and persistently.
Yeah, so we have to, I think what a lot of people are learning is to be self-disciplined.
Yeah.
And, so it's great for parents to try to help their child learn discipline. But, often children can find that, but then you can lose it. And when you go to school, they give you the discipline. Then when you grow up, you've got to find it for yourself. So to be disciplined yourself, and that your tests can help somebody find their own discipline. If you do this, this will happen. And you've got to put it into your daily routine. Because a lot of people are depending on apps to put things into their plans without thinking what else to add to it. So it is perfect. Let's talk about men. There's so much more to talk about women, I know. And I just think that I come back to the point that I think most doctors find women's problems just too complex to deal with. So I'm really glad that you're doing something that can help women and in the minutest detail. But what about prostate cancer? That suddenly, has it always been very high for men and we've just taken notice of it?
As a general rule, it appears that most cancers are on the high anyway. And that includes prostate cancer. And most of it is actually, again, to do with lifestyle, the whole of lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, stress, sleep. How are we doing in those areas? And that's how I educate the men who are on the program and the women as well, to look at every aspect of their lives and take a check on a regular basis to see where they're underperforming. Am I eating well? Am I exercising regularly? How is my sleep? How is my exercise? And do something about it. If you see that you're underperforming in one area, do something about it to improve that area, because your whole body needs to work well. So with men, I find when we do their hormone tests, if they have really high levels of estrogen, then that usually ends up being or leading to prostate problems. And if that is not checked over time, that kind of thing can lead to prostate cancer as well.
Wow, fascinating. And once they've done the test, obviously you can help them redress that balance.
Yes.
So before we ask for all your contact details, because this is amazing, can you give anybody a start program for themselves at home now? What to look at, how to be more self-disciplined, because people find that quite difficult, don't they? To be self-disciplined. You're very self-disciplined, I know that. And I think anybody who runs their business has to be. So, you have to be a self-starter. You have to understand that you get up in the morning and make something happen.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'll go back to the issue of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Lifestyle changes can be made cheaply without any costs attached to it. So look at your nutrition. How are you eating? How are you eating processed foods? Are you eating sugars? Or are you eating whole grain foods, healthy fruits and vegetables, lean meats, and keeping an overall check on your diet on a regular basis? Eating legumes, lentils. Make sure that you're trying to eat 360 degrees so that you're eating a variety of foods so that you are able to take in the different minerals and vitamins into your body. Check your exercise. Are you moving enough? 3, 4 times a week, maybe for 30 minutes each time. Walking, swimming, pick an exercise you like. Try and include weights and resistance training in your exercise regime. 3 times or 2 times a week, do some resistance training because that builds muscle. As we grow older, we lose muscle mass. So you need to sustain your muscle levels and strength, and that helps with metabolism and breaking down foods as well. Check your sleep. How is my sleep? What's my sleep hygiene? Do I cut off like screen time an hour or so before bedtime? Do I have a restful, dark place to sleep in at night? Cut out unnecessary noises. Check your stress levels. How am I doing with stress? Am I meditating? Meditation is extremely important. Breathing exercises are extremely important. If you make that your morning and evening routine, first thing in the morning, do a 10 or 15-minute meditation and breathing exercises or yoga. That gives you a good start to the day. At the end of the day, do a similar thing where you're doing your breathing exercises and your meditation. That helps with your sleep and also helps to reduce stress levels. So basic things like that can be done by everybody. And you just have to get into the habit. Start small. Rome wasn't built in a day. Start small and build up gradually. And once you start doing the good habits, you find you get better and better at it.
Yeah, and don't be too self-punishing. If you make a mistake,
exactly. That's something we deal with as well. Relationships. Be kind to yourself. Yeah. Be kind to others. Don't be too harsh. Be forgiving.
Yeah, especially on yourself, because you're going to make a mistake. We all make mistakes and we all do something, go out and drink too much or party too much.
Exactly. But work on it. It's a work in progress.
And come back to where you're meant to be. Actually, a thought before you give us your details, how to contact you. Culture. We are so diverse, and I absolutely love the fact that we are diverse and accommodating. So I was brought up on the Polish food. My parents were Polish. And a lot of that was things like sauerkraut and gherkins, which are fantastic foods. Pierogi, of course, for anybody Polish listening, you can't not mention pierogi. And cabbage and all sorts. So potatoes, cabbage, all that type of thing. And that's what we get used to. But does your program accommodate all the different cultural foods that we are used to?
Of course, as long as they're healthy foods. Every culture has its healthy foods and its bad foods. It's just recognizing which are the healthy foods and which are the bad foods. One thing I didn't mention is we also have to be cautious of our environments and what kind of products we're using. For instance, in our homes, we have to be aware that some perfumes and some wash powders contain toxins and plastics that can be damaging to our bodies. So that's something else we need to look out for.
Yeah, very good point. Very interesting. There's so much to this. We've talked about this before, and there's so many different aspects. Plus, how you interact with people, sort of whether you can moderate yourself, your own emotions, and how you deal with your emotions. But that's for another interview.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Grace, where can people contact you? So people, I'm sure, will be contacting you when they hear about the amazing sort of program of investigation they can make into their own body and the analysis and how they can help themselves. This is all about sort of not being master of your own body, because our bodies change, but somehow being more in tune with our own body. That's what you're doing. You're going to educate and make people in tune with them, but also you're going to give people the ability to find the supplements and the support that they need to retune their body into being a better vehicle for themselves. So where would they contact you?
So I have a website, www.drgracehulafunctionalmedicine.com. And then I have another website, www.gnmhealthcare.co.uk. So our information is available on both websites. And then we have Instagram at GM Healthcare. You can also find us through that. And you can also phone us on 079 44 629 727. So we can post all the contact details in the comment section so that people have access to it.
Yeah, I'll do that because we'll post this on YouTube and so on. But it's amazing talking to you, as always, because it's such a big subject and we've just tried to highlight various areas. But I think we've covered a number of areas that really are the problematic areas for a number of people. But I know you're going to be the saving grace for, I like that. You are
appropriate.
Dr. Saving Grace.
Thank you.
I think that's so important for people today to know that you have brought something in to the medical field, the nutrition, the help, the health and wellness and well-being areas that can help people. And also you've made it easy they can call you from home and get it delivered to their home. How fantastic is that system?
Amazing. It's the future.
It's
the future.
Yeah, that is now.
The future, yeah.
Lovely.
Can I just quickly mention about the project in Africa? I know
gosh, yes, sorry. I was going to mention it. You have got this amazing project in Africa, in Uganda, haven't you? Oh, wow. What an amazing project.
I know. So my family, that's my husband and my siblings, especially my big brother, Professor Henry Karali, we've built a college in a very remote part of northwestern Uganda, where I come from, where you would normally not have easy access to education. So we built a skills college. It's called Urusi Institute of Science and Technology. And we started in July last year. And we were very fortunate that we were working with very good people who helped us build the college within 6 months. And by December, the building was ready. And by February, we had our first intake of students. Mm-hmm. So we are working on it. And the next stage is to build dormitories, because at the moment we only have classrooms. And so we're still a work in progress. I wanted to mention that, and we're still fundraising for that project.
And people can get in touch with you about that, but it's Urusi Institute of Science and Technology, and this is in the part of Uganda. So you have specifically designed this for both, boys and girls to be trained.
And especially girls, because women are at a disadvantage in that part of the world. Yeah. So if you educate a woman, you change so many more lives.
Of course you do. And, I must say, when I was in South Africa, and I was watching how women were actually making, I know this is slightly different, but they were making mud bricks to build huts instead of the corrugated iron huts they were living in. And it was the women that were doing that as well, so it's the working together. But women, if you, as you say, if you can educate women, it filters into the children, into the community.
Exactly.
And it's just an amazing project. I can't wait to hear how it develops. And anybody who's listening, and if you're thinking about dealing and putting something back into the community, into the world, when you're lucky and you've worked hard and you've made some money and you want to see it being used effectively, contact Dr. Grace Hula, and Dr. Grace will make sure that your money goes to absolutely straight into the project that will help a lot of women find out how great they are, the knowledge they can be given, and then they can interpret that and put it into their community for their children and to make the world a much better place.
Thank you. The website is www.erusiinstitute.com.
That's ERUSSI, Erusi Institute.
Yes.
Amazing. Dr. Grace, thank you.